I'm Josie Perino, and this is my informative speech for COM 105, and this is my audience. Today, teens and society as a whole are facing a new epidemic, and that is the merciless presence of synthetic drugs. My speech today will inform you on the role and presence of synthetic drugs in our society. I am well informed on this topic as it is the topic that I chose for my final presentation in my forensics class. In this speech, I will educate you on the background of synthetic drugs today, some examples, and why it is hard to regulate them. First, a little background. Hallucinogens were common among Native American tribes, and they used them during their rituals and ceremonies. The most common drug they used was peyote, which is a naturally occurring cactus, and the drug is extracted from it. In 1890, mescaline, which is the main chemical in peyote that causes the high, was synthesized for the first time in a lab. In 1938, LSD was first synthesized by Arthur Stoll and Albert Hoffman. On April 16, 1943, Albert Hoffman accidentally took LSD for the first time, and this happened when he was handling the chemical and it seeped through the skin on his fingertips. And he experienced a trip and he recorded it in his journal. And then a couple days later, he took the drug again on purpose and recorded a similar trip. It was later discovered through experimenting at the dose for an average man to experience a high is 0.025 to 0.05 milligrams, which is equivalent to a few grains of salt. And this is a picture of Albert Hoffman. In the 1960s, LSD swept the nation, and to this day it is still the most psychedelic drug known to man. It is stated in Fatima Nunes' article titled LSD, a Historical Reevaluation, that LSD is 5,000 to 10,000 times stronger than mescaline, which is the drug found in peyote. Research shows that the reaction time when taking LSD occurs within 1 hour, and then the height of the trip occurs at the 4th hour, and the whole experience is over within 8. And a user's trip depends on the user's age, reasons or motivation for taking the drug, the time of day, and their cultural background. When something is laced with LSD or acid, only 1 to 2 drops is necessary to create the euphoria that users feel. And around 2009, synthetic drugs emerged as a prominent member of the drug industry. Synthetic drugs today are referred to as designer drugs because they are created and synthesized in a lab environment rather than occurring naturally. They are easily accessed to users over the internet, social media, through other people, and oftentimes they're sold in stores. This is a picture of synthetic drugs shown on a rack in a store. In the picture, you can't really tell, but the prices on the drugs range from about $8 to $20. So this just gives you an idea of how cheap they are and why they're used often, because they're so cheap and easy to access. Mostly, these drugs are imported from Asian countries, and oftentimes they are not illegal because so many exist and they're hard to regulate. These drugs are most prominent in teenagers aging from 12 years old to 17 years old, and this was stated by John Sherbensky in his 2013 interview with CNN. Some examples of today's synthetic drugs are LSD, which is acid, bath salts, which before they were banned were still sold in convenience stores, synthetic THC such as K2 or Spice, N-Bomb, which here's an example of it. It's a white powder, and MDMA, which is also known as ecstasy or most commonly Molly. Regulating synthetic drugs is hard to do because many of them are unknown to law enforcement until people start overdosing on them. There are hundreds of them and they are constantly changing. As soon as a substance is banned in one synthetic drug, the manufacturers change that ingredient that was banned, which changes the entire molecular formula of the drug itself, and therefore it becomes legal again and is redistributed. And these drugs are constantly changing to work around the laws and regulations. They're often packaged and sold with labels on them such as not for human consumption or for research purposes only, this therefore getting around the laws that make them a drug or substance. In conclusion, synthetic drugs have made their mark in today's society, targeting mostly teens. This all began with the popularity of LSD in the 1960s, and law enforcement and lawmakers are working to ban these ever-changing substances. Thank you.